Art takes so much time that a waste of precious time is costly. You must not just try to find time for study, you must make it. You will find sketches galore in the studio of the good man, where they paint quite fresh. The mediocre artist's sketches are old and dusty. I have seen so many middle-aged artists still hoping, whose samples are frayed at the edges and thumb-marked with time. Sometimes it's been a matter of years since they sat down and gave their hopes any promise. They are plodding along, doing something that they hate and doing nothing about it. These are the men who never seem to have had a chance. The truth is, they never seized one. The problem of seizure, or the problem to seize opportunities, because really the opportunity to draw is all the time. It is like an infinite amount of opportunity every single day for the study that will lead you towards a fulfilling artistic expression. Yet when we are working and we are trying to make this, to take this chance, to seize this chance described in the book here that he's talking about people who are not taking, we somehow can't. We have an inability to seize those opportunities, and it's actually a matter of hyper-intention, that the more we seem to focus on something, say when you are trying to fall asleep, that you are thinking so much about how much sleep that you would like to have that you are now unable to sleep at all. And there's a solution to this problem, and it is one of changing the charge of the intention. So if you are hyper intending to sleep, what you can do is reverse the intention, and then in bed while you're lying there trying to fall asleep, you are instead thinking about how much you want to stay awake all night, and you are thinking, and those thoughts that are keeping you awake in the night, you just fully engage with them, and you really find like, how much can I worry at all? And you will find that you will fall asleep quite quickly. And it goes for a lot of things, but the way it works with painting and drawing is that you reverse the charge. Because for me, when I heard this, I thought, okay, the way you get things done is that you reverse the charge of getting things done. And I sat down at my desk and I thought, I'm not gonna get anything, like I'm not gonna work. And it worked. I mean, I did not get anything done, and oh, this is not the best. So I started reading more examples of reverse intention and use. And it was always with the sleep to take the action and simply reverse the action towards the threshold. So for instance, with painting and drawing, I have a lot of things that I've been meaning to do, that I really sincerely want to do, and somehow I cannot get myself to commit to those actions. And it's really annoying, because it's so obvious to me, like, you want to do this, so why aren't you doing it? And the way that I've crossed the threshold is to say to myself, well, I'll just start by making the worst example. So in drawing and painting, say you want to draw something that you are unaccustomed to, something that you have never done before. Instead of fidgeting, you instead go and you try and make the attempt to make the worst possible drawing that you have ever done. You drawing the worst dog, the worst horse, and then you will have passed the threshold from having drawn no dogs and no horses into actually having drawn dogs and horses, or any kind of, like, say you want to experiment with a new medium that you have bought. You bought the paints and you bought the pencils, you brought the brushes, and they're just sitting there and they're gathering dust and they are judging you silently. Well, the way you can start by using them is to have them not be so sacred, because you're looking at this completely unspoiled palette of watercolors, and you just think, it would be such a shame to touch them, and it becomes a collectible piece almost, all these art materials. And so for me, the way that I have gotten over myself and actually started to work traditionally as much as I really have wanted to, has been to intentionally trying to make a bad work with them. And I'm not very good at that. I'm not very good at making bad drawings. So I'm like, hey, you can do much worse than this, and I try and I do it worse, but it becomes marginally better, as happens when you practice something. And I'm frustrated, but I'm frustrating in a good way, because I'm actually doing what I want to do, but I have just reversed this intention. And this is something that you can use in pretty much all parts of your life, that you can take this thing and say, well, what's actually happening? And that will already help you a lot. But then changing the charge of it, so that instead of focusing on the thing that you're not getting done, you're focusing on the opposite of its action. And I actually have gotten to sit down and do work when I'm saying I'm absolutely not going to work. But the way that I made that work was that I had to go to my workspace and then sit with a pencil in hand, and I would just say, you're not allowed to draw for the next 20 minutes. And I would sit there with the instruments, and I'm not very good at holding myself off for 20 minutes. Like at this point I've kind of grown an insatiable appetite for it, but to get to this point, it's really been just sit down and deny myself in a way. And then of course it's completely perfect if you break the spell that you put on yourself, that I'm actually just gonna work. The example that I read that made me want to try this was when the Logostherapy, which this comes from, was used to treat couples who they were unable to be sexually intimate. What the psychotherapy, the Logostherapy suggested was to lie naked next to each other for an hour, like this and that day, and then they were not allowed to touch each other. And the couple came back and said, we were unable to not touch each other. And then, they were cured after a few weeks of their potency issues. And I thought, wow, it can solve even that. That's really incredible. So it's really, when you are working and you're having fear of ceasing, try to, instead of working towards, I must do this thing, to instead work towards sitting in front of it. You are completely aware that you want to do it, so set it up in a way where that's the only thing you can do, really. Or it's the obvious thing to do. You prepare the materials, you put them out, you put them all nice, you have the workspace set up that's just ready for you to sit down and engage with it. And you just sit there, and you might think of it as a kind of partner, because in a way, since you were spending so much time with art, it becomes a priority that kind of exceeds our intimate relationships, and that's kind of how it ends up being. So don't be frigid towards your work, but really just try to work towards doing the worst thing that you possibly can. And then when you've done that, I think you can do even worse, honestly. So that was something about seizing opportunity, and I really hope that you will move towards the things that you want to do. Thanks for listening.